cited a source familiar with U.S. intelligence assessments as well, who said they knew of no U.S. intelligence reports detailing Hamas aid diversions, and that Washington was relying only on Israeli reports. The New York Times report, which was published on Saturday, cited 2 senior Israeli military officials and 2 other Israelis involved in the matter, who said the Israeli military never found proof that Hamas had systematically stolen aid from the United Nations. The Israeli military also said the UN aid system had been largely effective in providing food to Gaza's desperate and hungry population. So this is Reuters and the New York Times citing U.S. intelligence assessments and even anonymous Israeli military officials. They all say there is zero evidence of this claim. When Netanyahu goes on Nelk and they ask him about it, and he says, well, Hamas is taking it. When Charlie Kirk brings on a rabbi and they say, oy vey, Hamas is taking the aid, that is a lie. They made that up. That is a lie. That is a typical lie. That is their go-to lie that they use for everything. Whenever they are accused of something, they blame Hamas. They blame the Muslims. They blame the terrorists. It's always the terrorists. But there is zero evidence that this is happening. Just like everything else, by the way. Have you noticed that that's sort of a pattern? When October 7th happened, the Israelis said Hamas is putting babies in ovens and cutting their heads off and raping everybody. Zero evidence. Never happened. There's zero evidence of that. That was the basis for the whole war. That was the basis for $30 billion in aid. That was the basis for all of it. No evidence. Never happened. They made it up. They said they had to shut down the UNHRC. They had to shut down some of the UN programs distributing aid. They said because those UN programs were working with Hamas. And the European Union and the United States stopped funding those groups because of those claims. Well, those claims were investigated, and it turned out to be a lie. The Israelis had no proof of what they were claiming. So there's no proof of mass sexual assaults, no proof of beheaded babies, no proof of babies in ovens, no proof that the UN organizations were working with Hamas.
Glad you're willing to assist.
On the flip side, when Israel kills children in a school or in a residential area, they say, well, Hamas is using them as human shields. When they destroy 90% of the roads and 70% of the buildings, they say, well, Hamas made us do it. When they kill 50,000 women and children, Hamas made us do it. Every one of those children was killed by us because of Hamas.
I was hoping you were
And now
available.
this.
I'll send you in the sun.
2 million people are starving to death. They're hungry. Children are hungry, and they say, well, Hamas is taking the aid. No evidence.
All right.
No proof.
You're looking at high-ranking
Not from the
gang
U.S.
leaders
intelligence
just so
community,
happen to
not
be
from the
criminal
Israeli
foes.
military. There's nothing.
Anytime,
It isn't happening.
Any day, they give the LSPD the information
And
they want.
what's
And in
really
return,
crazy,
the LSPD
let's take it
gives
to the
them
next
all
level.
of this fucked up
Okay?
news.
Because everybody knows that the Israelis lie. Everybody knows they lie about everything. They lie about their nuclear program. They lie about their intentions. They lie about their neighbors. They lie about Hamas. They lie about their war crimes. Everybody knows Netanyahu is a liar about everything. Iran is 2 weeks away from a nuclear bomb for 30 years. If we take out Saddam, democracy will spread in the Middle East. They lie about everything. Netanyahu lies about everything. The Israeli government lies about everything. And what's more, people that are sympathetic to Israel lie about everything. The pro-Israel Jews in America, or pro-Israel Christians, or Zionists, they're acting as public diplomats on behalf of Israel, spreading their lies. People like Charlie Kirk and people like Ben Shapiro, they're spreading lies for the Israeli government. We know that. Let's kick it up a notch. Do you know what they're saying about the photos and videos of emaciated children that are starving to death in Gaza? They're saying it's atrocity propaganda. They're saying, in contravention of all the evidence, look at that cover of a magazine. of a child starving, they say, well, that child isn't starving. He has a genetic disorder. He's not rail thin and 30 pounds because he's hungry. It's because he has a genetic disorder. They're calling it Pallywood, Palestinian Hollywood. They're saying all the photos, all the evidence is being staged, Hollywood style.
What are you gonna do?
So you're telling me that photos of bodies and hungry corpses is not evidence of systematic killing? That's weird. You're telling me that you have self-interested political actors that are staging, in the manner of a Hollywood production, videos and photos of atrocity to garner sympathy for a political agenda. That's really interesting. You're telling me that because there is no document that ordered the mass starvation of children, that it isn't happening, that it isn't intentional. You're disputing the numbers. You're telling us that the Gaza Health Ministry is exaggerating and embellishing the numbers. They're not denying that people are dying. They're not denying that Israel's killing them. They're just denying that there's a systemic effort to kill these people for who they are, and that they think the numbers are exaggerated. You see, that's really interesting. Because are not those the core pretenses of Holocaust revisionism? Is that not what every Holocaust revisionist has ever argued about the Nazi policy towards the Jews in World War II? We have Holocaust museums in every city in America. We have Holocaust education mandated by law. We have blockbuster Hollywood films about the Holocaust. We have Holocaust remembrance days throughout the year. And the Holocaust seems to be that seminal tragedy that our entire political conversation happens inside the shadow of, thereof. And it's dedicated to defeating these questions, which are, maybe it was exaggerated, maybe it didn't happen the way they say it did. They say Holocaust denial. If you have any question about the narrative, they say that is this irredeemable sin. It shows that you are a Jew hater because you are evil. If you have questions about, if you say the Holocaust is atrocity propaganda, they say if you say October 7th is atrocity propaganda. If you say those numbers were embellished, if you say those photos are staged or not representative of a true genocide or a systematic gas chamber effort or babies in ovens, things like that, they say if you discount those aspects of those stories, you are a Holocaust denier because you are a Jew hater because you are evil. Because you are intrinsically, genetically predisposed to being anti-Semitic because you are evil, and that is why you're asking those questions about their tragedies. Isn't that so interesting? So if I say, as a white American in the 21st century, I think the Holocaust is being used as a guilt trip. I'm wondering why our media is so pro-Israel. I'm wondering why our government is so pro-Israel. And I'm being told, shut up, the Holocaust happened. And I'm saying, wait a second, that seems like emotional blackmail. I have legitimate concerns based on fact about foreign influence in my government. I have legitimate concerns about the state of this country, about tolerance, diversity, multiculturalism, about the wars we're fighting, about the overrepresentation of Jews in our system and how liberal they are. And I'm being told you can't ask any of those questions because of the legacy of this event that you cannot question. And I, as a normal person, start to say, well, wait a second, maybe that event has been, in a certain sense, manufactured for that purpose. And maybe it didn't start that way, and maybe it has some basis in reality, but the mythology of it has been carefully refined over time for a political purpose, to serve a political purpose. If it is exaggerated, embellished, if it is as atrocious as possible, the worse that we will feel, the less we will question. Is that not the same logic? And yet here they are. Isn't this the grand irony? Here are the Israelis. Now here come the Israelis perpetrating a genocide, which we can see in our time, which we can see it belongs to our time, and America owns it because we are paying for it. It is on video, it is being photographed. There are eyewitnesses speaking to us today, and they saw it last week. And the Israelis say, that's Hollywood. That's being embellished. The numbers are being exaggerated. It's atrocity propaganda. And the irony could not be more palpable. Could not be more on the nose. And all of this is to say, at what point do Americans take everything the Israelis say and roll their eyes? Whenever Ben Shapiro or Bibi Netanyahu or Tim Pool or Charlie Kirk open their mouth on this subject, every American needs to say, you are full of shit about all of it. About Holocaust denial, about Nazis, about anti-Semitism, about October 7th, about Hamas, about the genocide of the Palestinians, about AIPAC, about the media. At a certain point, Americans need to identify who is on their side and realize they are lying to us about everything. About everything. They are in a hostile and self-interested way perpetrating a grand deception on us so that we will do their bidding. Iran is 2 weeks away. You need to bomb them. Hamas are terrorists. You need to give us the missiles to kill them. They're not starving. You need to look the other way and stop speaking out about what your tax dollars are paying for. About AIPAC, about all of it. Americans need to look at themselves and look at their neighbors and say, wait a second, I'm an American.
Totally free.
I have one country, not two. I have this country, the country I was born in. My parents were born here. My grandparents were born here. I would fight for this country. I would die for this country. I am a Christian. And if you cannot say the same, I don't trust you. If you cannot say the same, that this is not your only country, that you would not die for this country, then why am I trusting what you're trying to spin to me about what's happening with my money and my weapons and my government over there and over here? Enough is enough. And that's what this is all about. The whole thing. When you really start to peel back the layers, you see there's a structure to it. Don't you understand? There is an anatomy, there is an architecture to this deception. And the reason, one of the reasons, they do not want you to use this language when you say it's a genocide is because the second that Israel is credibly accused of genocide, they lose their get-out-of-jail-free card. The second that Israel is credibly accused, which they are, of carrying out a genocide, they can no longer fall back on the Holocaust as an excuse to rationalize or moralize all of their actions, to make them beyond accountability and transparency. I think it's a little weird how many of the media conglomerates are owned by Jewish people. But I can't say that because people say it's anti-Semitic and that's wrong because of the Holocaust and the Nazis and they were the victims of a genocide. But if they're committing a genocide now, and if they're powerful enough to cover it up and to resist pressure from the whole world to stop doing it, then that means they're no longer victims and maybe they're too powerful.
Sweet Jesus.
There's an anatomy to these lies. And that's why every little aspect of it, they're trying to control the narrative. Once you start to pull at that thread, the whole thing comes undone about all of it. The double standards, the hypocrisy, the lies, all of it. So that's the situation in Gaza. For anybody that is uncertain, for anybody that is conflicted about it, the evidence is black and white. It is happening. There is no evidence that Hamas is stealing the aid. And when you see a rabbi come on television and reassure you, no, Hamas just took it. The terrorists took it. The Muslims took it. That is a lie. It is a lie to get you to look the other way, to stop thinking of Israel as a genocidal state, and that is to maintain this narrative about themselves, that they are the victim, that they are beyond reproach. Don't look at them. Don't look at their actions. Don't question them. Don't question their actions. Do not scrutinize. Do not be skeptical. That's what it's all about. And it's interesting now that even Donald Trump, who, as I said, is a major Zionist, even he seems to be breaking with his own most loyal supporters. Someone like Charlie Kirk. And it just goes to show, by the way, Charlie Kirk, who a week ago said, I'm doing a focus group. I'm open to a contrary opinion on Israel and Palestine. He's now doing damage control on their behalf. And one has to wonder, is he being paid by Israel? Without a doubt, the answer is yes. For Charlie Kirk to go on his show today and say, there is no forced starvation, here comes a rabbi to tell us why, without a shadow of a doubt, he is being paid by them. That is why he is doing damage control on their behalf, because he is on their payroll. And someone who is on the payroll of a foreign state, making excuses for war crimes, is not somebody that you can trust on anything. That's not somebody that you can take the good with the bad. How can anybody take him seriously as a Christian? How can you go up there and pretend to be a godly man? Why? Because you tell people to get married? Oh, look, I have my kid. You know, he posted the other day, he's on Fox and Friends, and his daughter runs up and jumps into his lap. And we're supposed to look at this carefully manicured public relations material and say, aw, what a family man. What a good Christian. He's practically a pastor, the way he evangelizes the young. Well, it's a good thing Charlie Kirk's daughter doesn't live in Gaza, because his daughter would have been fucking murdered. It's a good thing Charlie Kirk's daughter was born to a rich man in America who lies for a living and is paid by billionaires to do it, and wasn't born in Gaza, because if Charlie Kirk, the family man, if him and his family were over there, if they were born in the wrong place at the wrong time, they would be getting shot in the back of the head for trying to get food and water while they were starving to death by the Israelis that they defend. And that's disgusting. It's especially disgusting in light of what he'll defend. Oh, look, his daughter's in the studio. She runs, oh, daddy. She runs up and jumps onto his lap. And then 2 days later, he goes on his show and says, they're babies. Babies are being starved to death. Well, Hamas is stealing the aid. They deserve it. It's collective guilt. They support Hamas. Release the hostages. It's sick. It's disgusting. And people need to push harder. We need to push for more. It's not good enough. Donald Trump throwing a little throwaway statement, oh, we need to get more food in there. Charlie Kirk saying, oh, I'll hear you out in Israel, but I'll basically do propaganda on their behalf. It's not good enough. You gotta go, dude. You gotta go. What has to happen with Charlie Kirk is one of two things. One, he needs to recant his support for Israel. Not I'm gonna hear everybody out, you're not an anti-Semite. No, you need to come out and say, I took foreign money. I shilled for a foreign country, and I won't anymore. That's what we need to hear. That's option one. You can't take money from a foreign government and lie on their behalf and then say, oh, well, you know, I'm just not going to be as aggressive anymore against and calling people anti-Semites and things like that. No, you need disclosure, you need accountability. Or two, you need to leave the stage. People cannot listen to somebody that they cannot trust. In particular, cannot trust that they're not taking money from a foreign government. You can't have it that way. Can't call yourself Turning Point USA. I'm an ally of the president. We're waving the flag for the young people, and do the rest. So that's the situation in Gaza. It's horrible, and we pray for the people in Gaza. I don't care. People say that's third worldism. That's not third worldism. That's called being a good person. I'll do you one better. That's called being a Christian. That is called being a Christian. It doesn't matter what color they are, not to sound liberal, but it's just true. It doesn't matter. We don't want them to live in America, and we don't agree with their values necessarily. But as Christians, to see innocent people being slaughtered like this, you have to speak out against it. You have to pray for these people. And the only people that say otherwise are spiritually Jewish or actually Jewish. The only people that their hearts are so hardened to the suffering of others that they could say, there's a virtue in hating those people. They're all guilty. They deserve to starve. Women, children, because they're brown, really? That's just evil. There's a word for that. It's called evil. So, that's that. But I do want to move on. I want to talk a little bit about Colombia, and then we're going to take a look at the super chats. So our other story, very much in a similar vein, is about the settlement that was made last week between the Trump administration and the University of Columbia. This is another one of our wars against anti-Semitism. It feels like that's every war. We're at war with the universities. We're at war with some of these immigrants. We're at war with Iran, the Houthis, with Palestine. And it seems like a good deal of them have something to do with anti-Semitism, the benefit of Israel, and this is yet another one. You may recall at the beginning of the year that the Trump administration declared war on 6 out of the 8 Ivy League universities in America, and he did this by withholding all their federal money. So he went to Columbia, Harvard, Yale, Brown, you name it. I think the only 2 that were spared were Dartmouth and maybe one other one. I forget off the top of my head. But Princeton, Yale, Harvard, Brown, Cornell, he went after 6 out of the 8 Ivy League universities, withholding hundreds of millions each, eventually totaling billions in total of federal grants, federal loans, other federal money. And the message was this. Trump said he was withholding their money, which would bankrupt them. And there were other strategies used as well, but that was the primary mode. He said he would withhold all of their critically important federal money in perpetuity. These universities get money annually. He said he would withhold hundreds of millions each in perpetuity until and unless they capitulated to government demands, which were, among other things, that these universities pay a lot of money, and more importantly, that the universities do a better job of policing anti-Semitism. That's literally the demand. Hiring more cops, changing the rules and regulations governing protests and on the campus, changing the curriculum in the classroom about Israel and Palestine. So they bent over the universities with the federal money and said, if you don't make your universities, I would even say more philo-Semitic, if you don't make the curriculum and the student body more pro-Israel, then we will bankrupt you. That was the message. And the universities, some of them fought, some of them gave up immediately, but finally the war is coming to an end because all of them are capitulating. They can't survive like this. The foreign students were being held up at one point, the money's being held up. They're under this immense pressure, and now they're relenting, and Columbia University agreed to a settlement with the White House. It is worth $200 million, and I'll read to you this report about what's in it. It says, quote, Columbia University will pay a $200 million fine to settle allegations from the Trump administration that it failed to do enough to stop the harassment of Jewish students, part of a sweeping deal reached on Wednesday to restore the university's federal research funding. In exchange for the return of hundreds of millions in research grants, Columbia will also pledge to follow laws banning the consideration of race in admissions and hiring, and follow through on other commitments to reduce anti-Semitism and protests on campus that it agreed to in March. The deal, which settles more than a half dozen open civil rights investigations into the university, will be overseen by an independent monitor agreed to by both sides, who will report to the government on its progress every 6 months. Okay? An anti-Semitism monitor. Columbia will pay $21 million to settle investigations brought by the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. That'll be paid out to the Jewish faculty who are victims of anti-Semitism. Some of the terms simply codify what was pledged by Columbia back in March. Those commitments include the appointment of a senior vice provost to oversee the Middle Eastern Studies Department and other departments, the maintenance of restrictions on protests, and the appointment of 36 public safety officers with arrest powers. Okay? So you get an IDF on campus. You get an Israeli Defense Forces on the campus. They're hiring security guards that can arrest people to crack down on pro-Palestine protests, and they can't be pro-Palestine protests. There are also new commitments to existing laws and executive orders that align with Trump administration priorities regarding DEI. Columbia, like all schools, already had to inform the Department of Homeland Security when international students were suspended or expelled. It will now notify the department when they're arrested.
This sucks.
The two sides already agreed on the independent monitor, who will be paid for by Columbia. Take a wild guess at what his name is. Take a wild guess. It reminds me of a certain acronym, you know, every single time. The monitor is Bart M. Schwartz, co-founder and chairman of the crisis consulting firm Guidepost Solutions, former chief of the criminal division of the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York. So the Trump administration has blackmailed financially 6 of the 8 top Ivy League universities in the country, blackmailing them to accept a monitor to focus exclusively on anti-Semitism, who is Jewish. Trump held up $400 million in federal money to Columbia unless they agreed to 1, shutting down pro-Palestine protests, 2, hiring dozens of security guards with arrest powers to arrest pro-Palestine protesters, change the rules cracking down on pro-Palestine protests, to change the curriculum in the Middle Eastern Studies Department to make sure it's more pro-Israel. That's literally what they're doing. They're making the Middle Eastern Studies curriculum more pro-Israel, overseen by the feds. And to enforce all of it, they have hired a Jewish monitor who is going to report back to the government every 6 months and say, this is your anti-Semitism scorecard. I feel, as a Jewish monitor, subjectively, that Columbia has an A+ in fighting anti-Semitism. This month I feel like they're having an F because I don't feel safe as a Jew on this campus because the students hate Israel too much. And in addition, Columbia is paying $20 million separately to the Jewish faculty of the university under a civil rights complaint. Go figure.
I think I have.
And by the way,
I could use your
what's really
talents
interesting
for.
about this is this goes back 20 years.
Copy. We stopped
A lot of
disrupting
people
the
do not
Taco
know
Van,
this.
And we stopped their
And listen,
cops.
if you were
I
tricked
have
in
their
some way,
last
shape, or
location,
form into supporting
and in a
this, I
moment,
kind of
you
get it.
will too.
There's this argument that they're using. They say, well, the universities are a hotbed of leftism and DEI. They say, so we're using the Israel thing as an excuse to go after these left-wing institutions, and it's a good thing. It doesn't matter the reason we're doing it or what we achieved in the settlement. They say Columbia's left-wing, the Trump administration's right-wing, a right-wing institution defeated a left-wing institution, it's good. But this has been happening at Columbia for 20 years. And you could do a little deep dive on this yourself. 20 years ago, in 2004 and 2005, there was a professor at Columbia named Joseph Massad. Not Mossad like the intelligence agency, Massad, M-A-S-S-A-D. And he is Arab. And Joseph Massad was a professor who had a class at Columbia in their Middle Eastern Studies department where he was extremely critical of Israel. He taught a class on the Israel-Palestine conflict, and he was very critical of Israel. In response to the class, many of the Jewish students on the campus, of which there are many, Columbia is about 25% Jewish, okay, a quarter of the student body is Jewish. The Jewish students started to demand that he get fired. They said he is an anti-Semite, he is pro-Palestine, he's got to go.
What's your problem?
On the other side, many of the left-wing people, they rallied around Mossad and they said this is academic freedom. He should be able to teach the course. This is a university after all. You can have different viewpoints. And the Jewish students at Columbia, they made a whole documentary about it. It was called Columbia Unbecoming. And they had protests. They formed up a group called the David Project. They made this documentary. They engaged in a public pressure campaign in the media. And there were protests on the campus. And they demanded that he and other pro-Palestine professors get fired. Ultimately, it was unsuccessful. Mossad did not get fired. But it was a major media scandal for the university, created a lot of problems, and the controversy went on for like over a decade. I'm going to tell you two names of the Jewish students who were at Columbia contemporaneously that were a part of this, that were a part of the David Project, that wrote articles for the Columbia Spectator calling for Mossad to be fired, calling for the Middle Eastern Studies Department to be rid of Palestinians. Their names? Bari Weiss and Kostin Alamariu, which you may not recognize that name. He's better known by his online handle, Bronze Age Pervert. Bronze Age Pervert was at Columbia University with the Israeli spy, Bari Weiss, in 2004 and 2005. They worked together in the David Project, demanding that a pro-Palestine professor get fired for criticizing Israel. Kostin Alamariu wrote that our best and brightest are being indoctrinated about the fiction that is Palestine. That sounds like Ben Shapiro wrote that, but he wrote those words in the Columbia Spectator. After that, Bari Weiss went to Israel, where she did an internship under Yoram Hazony at the Shalem Center. Yoram Hazony now runs National Conservatism. Ever heard of NatCon, that conference? Hazony runs he wrote a book called The Virtue of Nationalism. He's prominent on Twitter. Look him up. Very familiar. Bari Weiss has done interviews with Peter Thiel, Mark Andreessen. She is a co-founder of the University of Austin in Texas with Joe Lonsdale, who's another Palantir guy from the Stanford Review, tight with Peter Thiel. Kostin Alamariu gets funded by Thiel, okay? And now the gang is back together. Here we are 20 years later, and the gang is all back together. At the Republican National Convention last year, Trump himself personally edited the Republican Party platform. It has 10 planks, and one of them is they were going to shut down anti-Semitism on the campus. He was elected, and that is what they are doing. They're using the federal government, blackmailing the universities, taking $400 million from Columbia to get the pro-Palestine professors fired and to get the Jewish professors a payday.
Shutting down money to dirty cops.
I wonder why Bronze Age Pervert is so pro-Trump. I wonder why Bari Weiss is so pro-Trump. Why is Joe Lonsdale, who is rapping tefillin with rabbis, and with a black cube on his forehead, I wonder why they're so pro-Trump. I don't understand. It must be because they're based. It must be because they hate brown people and are based, like Stephen Miller. They're artistically focused on mass deportations. I'm sure it has nothing to do with the fact that they're Jewish spies. I'm sure it has nothing to do with the fact that Bari Weiss and Kostin Alamariu are Jewish spies, working with Jewish defense contractors that work for the CIA, and all gave money to Trump and supported him on Twitter. I'm sure all of that is a big, giant coincidence, like everything else. It's not good. You want to shut down Columbia because they hate white people? Fine. You want to shut down Harvard because they're feminist and they have a BLM curriculum? Fine.
Should be with you
soon. That is not what is happening here. They are shutting down these universities on behalf of Israel and Jewish people, and they're replacing the presidents and board chairs with pro-Jew, pro-Israel people. They're changing the curriculum to be pro-Israel. They're making it so that you cannot criticize Israel in an elite institution, and that's a problem. Because in 25, 50 years, our State Department, our Supreme Court, our senators, the top high-powered lawyers, the top businessmen, they all will have gone to Columbia, Harvard, Yale, Princeton.
What's your destination?
And none of them will have ever been in a situation where they could have criticized Israel or learned a counter-Israel opinion at these schools, which are being run, it seems, by the state of Israel itself. That's a problem. We have to take our own side. I don't want to shut down Columbia over anti-Semitism. If Columbia is a hotbed of protesting Israel, good. Leave them the fuck alone. Fine. And I feel the same way about a lot of this stuff. America keeps getting worse. We're putting bandages on things that appear to be for us, but really they're only benefiting one other particular group. And on the one hand, they're going to have Columbia rip apart their DEI. At the same time, they're bringing civil rights complaints against Columbia. You understand the contradiction? On the one hand, they're saying, we hate the civil rights regime. It's anti-white. It's promulgating DEI. It has to go. At the same time, they're saying, we're going to bring a civil rights complaint against Columbia if one Jewish student feels uncomfortable. The double standard's insane. You know, the Republicans, they're the biggest proponents of DEI. The Republicans say they're against DEI right before they sue you for $400 million under the civil rights law because someone criticized Israel within earshot of a Jewish student. That's bullshit. So anyway, that's Columbia. We're going to move on, though. We're going to take a look at our super chats. We'll see what you guys have to say about all this.
Oh, yes, that's super.
We're going to take a look. We'll see what you have to say.
I hope it's gonna be
That's all I got
lovely
for
day.
you on the other stuff.
Hey, nice car.
All right, here we go. Actually, give me one sec. There we go. Okay. All right, deep breaths. Entering the super chat portion. Let's get dialed in. Let's get in the right headspace. All right. My body's ready, okay? I'm mentally prepared.
$24. Nick, you certainly have the gift of the gab. Did you take a free trip to Ireland to kiss the Blarney Stone and pledge your allegiance? Yeoman 6 sent $50.
Yeah.
Not everyone can be as influential as you. That was the basis of my super chat last Thursday. You read half of it and went on a rant saying people need to get active and having families is not enough. I agree. That's why I mentioned getting active locally. There can't be a million NJF, but there can be a million people that amplify the cause local.
Okay, I don't remember your super chat from Thursday. It's Monday.
Praise Keck sent $30. I'm friends with a Jewish convert who was on Kirk's path. I sent him clips to your show and took him to a Catholic church. Gotta represent. RKD4 NJF.
Let's go. Love to hear it, man. I really love to hear that guy was converting to Catholicism. And I would say, you know, a lot of people say to me, obviously, that I'm an anti-Semite. I don't even know what that means. That's a fake word. That's a fake bullshit word. I reject it entirely. But of course, what it is supposed to suggest is that I hate Jewish people. And when I'm about to say something, I'm not going to say it to appeal to liberals or Jews or to do damage control or public relations. This is my honest to God
Orale, nice ride.
view. These are my opinions. I do not hate Jewish people. I do not hate anybody. And you know that because our solution to this problem we're talking about, which we ceaselessly talk about the Jewish occupation of America, all that stuff. The solution, on the contrary to what people say, we don't want to hurt anybody. We don't want to kill anybody. We don't want to hurt anybody. We don't want to treat people in a way that is cruel or harmful or even necessarily discriminatory.
I will scoop some bitches.
What we want ultimately for the Jewish people is to become Christian. And that is the most loving thing that you can want for somebody. When we say we love our enemies, we mean we pray for them. We pray for them. We will them towards their own good, not our good. We will for them their own good, which is their salvation, which is their communion with their God, our God, the God that we all share. And I don't know how anybody could know that and continue to insist that I'm a hateful person. That's the most loving thing, is to say that you want that person to be saved. You want that person to enjoy eternal life. So, on the contrary, people that say, so what do you want to do? Hurt everybody? What do you want to do? Round everybody up? What I would like is for our country to be sovereign. People that do not share our values or our loyalties should not have power over us. That's a very basic premise. It's a very simple and fundamental principle. People that do not love our country, that are not loyal to our country, that do not share the religion of our country, which is not arbitrary, should not have power over our country, over us. Now, we're not saying you can't have power anywhere, or you can't live here or live anywhere. You can live here and you can enjoy the same dignity and respect and rights as everybody else. And if you want to run a society for the interest of the Jewish nation, fortunately, there is a place for you. It is called Israel. But in America, it's unacceptable that people have so much influence over our daily lives. Think about that. The powerful, the rich and powerful in our country make decisions that affect all of us and all of our daily lives. Those people have to have some affinity with us. They have to have something in common with us. They have to love us. They have to love our country as a whole and consider themselves a part of it. And I don't think Ben Shapiro does. I don't think Miriam Adelson does. When they say things like, my heart is in Israel, I wish I could have served in the IDF, I love America because America supports Israel, that shows America's not enough for them. They don't love America in itself. And they don't see themselves as a part of the whole. They see themselves as within it, but not of it. Within it and enjoying its privileges, but having no obligation to it. And having no connection to, no deep connection to the people in it. That's a big problem. So, anyway, and not to make that a big detour or whatever, but I saw that, and then the guy said, yeah, I'm converted to Catholicism, and I hear that, and I would embrace that guy as a fellow Catholic. Contrary to what people would say about that. So good for him. I do genuinely love hearing that.
Darth Inkling sent $15. Hey brother, I've just recently started following your program. I very much appreciate you. Don't always agree. Have you ever weighed in on the boomer cringe narrative, don't go to college? I suspect I know your position, but again, I'm relatively new. 40-year-old NJF appreciator. Folded hands emoji. For your mom. Latin cross emoji.
Hey, thank you very much, man. I think that people should go to college. I do. I think that if you are a young, precocious, especially male, maybe exclusively male. If you're a young, intelligent male, you gotta go to college. Because college is how you max out your status, your money, your network. What Charlie Kirk says, let's just evaluate the claim in detail. He says college is a scam. That's not true, okay? When you go to college, you get what you pay for. Now, it is what you make of it. If you go to college and study sociology, you will receive a degree in sociology. If you can't make a good living off of that in your field, well, that's your problem. I don't think you should go to school mostly for liberal arts. You get what you pay for, and look, you know the price tag going in. It is very expensive. It is very expensive. It is a big investment in time and money, but by the end of it, you get a degree. It's not a scam. Now, the question is college worth the money? You get a degree, but is a degree worth the investment in time, money, and effort? That's the question. And for some, the answer is obviously no. For women, I think the answer is no. For men that are going to go into the trades, the answer is no. I think that fewer people should go to college, far fewer. But if you go to college to be a lawyer, to be an engineer, if you go to college to study political science and you build your network, you want to get an MBA, you want to be an investment banker, that's very worth it. I don't think anyone would say going to Harvard Law School is not worth it. If you have an opportunity to go to Harvard Law School, you take it. If you have an opportunity to go to MIT or Stanford, you fucking take it. If you have an opportunity to go to Northwestern, to go to Vanderbilt, to go to Duke, you take it. Now, should every student go to a school, no matter how expensive, no matter what they're studying? No, obviously not. Some people are going to have a much better life doing something else. You know, they could start a business themselves, they could get into the trades, they could just enter the workforce without a degree. If you look at the numbers now, for Zoomers with a degree and for those without a degree, they have an equal level of employment. And those with a college degree are heavily underemployed right now. So it's not a good investment for everybody. But that doesn't mean it's not a good investment for anybody. For some people, it's a very good investment. And by the way, going to college, you have to look at it not like, well, what am I going to learn? That's part of it. It is a big thing of it is it's about selection. Getting into Harvard is not just about getting your degree. It's about getting a ticket. It's about getting your ticket punched to get into a certain strata of society. And you will meet people at Harvard, at Stanford, at Yale that can help you, that will be influential. You will, to get into those institutions, unless you're black, you have to be the smartest in the country. No offense, but it's true. Everyone knows that. Unless you are black, unless you are Hispanic, it is a given that if you were at one of these schools and you're white or Asian, you are the cream of the crop. You are the smartest. Now, not every intelligent person gets into Harvard, but every white and Asian person at Harvard is a smart person. It is almost worth it for that reason alone. Putting Harvard on your resume, meeting the people that go to Harvard that are super intelligent, that is worth the price of admission. And so I think that if you're a young man watching the show and you are like I was, you are precocious, you are self-aware, you are intelligent, you have a perfect SAT, perfect ACT, get into a good school. Get into the best school that you can, do it as cheaply as possible. You know, don't be cost conscious, but go to school, build your network, learn as much as you can, use it to your advantage. That's all you have in terms of the material aspects of life is advantage. Exploit your advantage. Not everybody gets those opportunities. So you want to do that. And of course, everybody's got to chart their own destiny. I dropped out of college. I didn't take my own advice. Some of you may do the same, but to tell people like, hey, college is just a scam, period. It's not good for anybody. That's very bad advice. So what I would say about college is simply to say it's not for everybody. But it is for some people. So we want to change the world. We got to become powerful. And that means meeting the best and brightest, getting into the institutions, building our influence, building our resources, building our network. Always think about building. You have to think, how can I use this to my advantage? Maybe it's just me. Maybe this comes naturally to me, but I look at everything as an opportunity. I look at everything, how do I assimilate this into something I could use for my advantage? That's how I look at everything. I'm extractive, I'm instrumentalizing. And some people might say there's something wrong with that. I think that is how you bend the world in the direction you want it to go. Some people like to make excuses, like to say, oh, well, that's all a racket. Oh, well, that's all dumb. Oh, well, you know, there's a lot of people that always like to tell you why everything doesn't work and everything's wrong and this and that. If you're especially young, you have to look at everything as an opportunity. You have to think, how can I use this to my advantage? And we are the movement. The movement is the people. So what's good for us is good for the movement. To a certain point, obviously within limits. Not like, oh, I feel like doing this. Anything I like to do is good for the movement. I'm not saying, you understand what I'm saying. If we can empower ourselves and we're dedicated to the cause, it's good for the cause. So.
Theologian Glover said $15. The recent pep talks of life and cancer are those things that fill bro-appers with such love and loyalty for you, and people that don't watch the show never see that side of you, and never understand why you mean so much to us and how real you are. God bless Nick, prayers up for you.
Thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. I'm glad, because, you know, you run the risk of being corny when you do the deep stuff like that.
Christ is King sent $10. Today is my birthday. Smile and grateful for the work you do.
Thank you, man. Happy birthday. Hope it was Friday. Well, hey, happy birthday. Happy belated birthday. I hope it was a good one.
Weird Al Spankovich sent $10. I sent a super chat yesterday asking about Trump being an Israeli while also planting the seed of nativism. You completely misunderstood my question and called me a fucking idiot. I keep my super chats brief since you have to read so many. Thanks for cock-slapping me over it, you fucking dickhead.
Are you done with your temper tantrum? Wipe your tears, okay? Wipe your tears, whore. Nobody cares, all right? It was a dumb question, all right?
Blake R sent $20. Aren't you worried that
So
yours will
how's
just
it
enact a
feel?
sanction option
Pretty
for
tight,
control
huh?
over America?
Don't
It's
be
a real
shy
dangerous
now.
risk.
Let her
Maybe
show
we should
you
leave
what she
Israel
can
alone and just
do.
give them everything honestly. Lol.
Okay, who wrote, did Ben Shapiro write that one?
Ham sent $10. In a big family. And in Black Trump won for your sake. If Kamala had won, how exactly would you have told everyone that it's not the worst possible outcome without the benefit of hindsight? You would just have been relentlessly attacked by the right while Kamala fucked shit up.
Well, we can't say what would have happened, what could have happened. It didn't happen. But, what would have happened if Kamala had won is that the right wing would have been empowered. The right wing would have been, think about everything that's happening now. The Iran war, the Ukraine war, she would have owned that. And I really